Look at that graphic. You know that it's time. Well, it's almost time.
Smith Schuster.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Did we end with the damn Jets game? We did. Oh.
Get the taste out of our mouth.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. It is the Audible part 2 of our Week 11 preview, and we got to start with a better game than we finished with on yesterday's show's Bloom. And Sigmund Bloom, Cecil, Lammey here talking fantasy football with you. And this time we're going to start Atlanta and Carolina. Atlanta with the hot waiver wire pickup and Brian Hill that everyone's excited to get to see. They're not going to be with Austin Hooper, Bloom, so it's not like we're going to talk about Luke Stalker, right, as a fantasy option. But does this mean more Calvin Ridley? Does this mean more Russell Gage? Of course, Julio Jones is going to do his thing. Matt Ryan back there slinging it. But we've got a couple of changes, specifically no Hooper and Hill as their starting running back. How do the Falcons look with these changes?
Yeah, and this is, again, categorized as a game. Carolina with a lot to play for. Atlanta, not anything to play for in terms of playoffs, but we saw the same recipe last week in a divisional game on the road, resulting honestly the best all-around effort by this Atlanta team. They got a lot of breaks, but they're loving playing spoiler. And since we talk on the show a lot about the relationship between a coach and a team, and just because a team isn't doing well doesn't mean they don't love their coach and they'll play for their coach. And I think they're playing for Dan Quinn right now, even though this is clearly his last year. It's a good recipe. Why would you break that? And with that recipe, I think is more balance. And here's one of those situations where the inclination of a team right now and the weakness of a defense, because I think one of the things that we should continue to see from smarter teams is play calling and offensive game planning to fit around the opponent's weakness more than your strength. Because Brian Hill isn't really a strength of this team. The running game isn't a strength of this team, but they stuck with the running game last week against New Orleans and it worked. And I think you attacked the run defense of Carolina. So you really like Brian Hill here as a what-the-heck flex or even an emergency injury by running back 2. You have some banged-up corners for Carolina, but very good corners. You're still going to play Julio Jones, and you're still going to play Calvin Ridley. Now, you have the loss of Austin Hooper and had Davis Maddock on the couch this week, always fantastic. And I think I called it the struggle target, Cease. He said it was maybe Rich Rebar came up with the idea of the foxhole target, which also paints a nice picture, right? Who becomes the foxhole target when the bullets are zing, 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 flying around Matt Ryan with this pass rush? Is it Russell Gage? Is it Jaden Graham from Yale? Let's see in the Ivy League guys.
From Colorado. That's where he went to high school.
So, yeah, we like seeing Rocky Mountain High via the Ivy League. So we're just going to be watching to see who it is. Maybe it's dumping it off to Brian Hill, but who is it? We'll see a little Quadri-Olison. Again, we're in that part of the calendar now where we're evaluating players, getting a little glimpse of what they can do long term. But in the short term, Atlanta should be competitive again. Atlanta, I think, they got a little taste of playing spoiler. They enjoyed it, and I think they're going to have another spirited performance.
A spirited performance against a Carolina team, of course, that we know is all about Christian McCaffrey, a dash of Curtis Samuel. He'll throw the recipe's the same. How does it look at home? We know Atlanta's defense can struggle when they're not playing a rivalry game, right? You can get up when you're playing the Saints, Bloom, and it is a divisional game against the Panthers. But on paper, Carolina should be able to have their way pretty easily with these guys.
Well, they should be able to, behind Christian McCaffrey, move the ball consistently. And where we're confused here is that Atlanta was it was like a dartboard, Cease, but the bullseye was as big as, the whole inner circle. We wanted to play everybody against Atlanta. Last week, again, a lot of it was self-inflicted by the Saints, but still, last week, Saints didn't score a touchdown. The Saints in the Superdome did not score a touchdown against this defense, and the pass rush was getting home. So you want to see if that happens, if Adrian Claiborne and Vic Beasley and Grady Jarrett are doing their thing and flustering Kyle Allen. It doesn't necessarily make Kyle Allen the premier waiver wire to your lineup quarterback that he might have looked like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were looking ahead to this. It is going to be a lot of Christian McCaffrey. It's still going to be a lot of DJ Moore. He's a high floor wide receiver 2 right now. And Curtis Samuel. And Curtis Samuel is one of those players, by the way, he's getting open downfield easily. Kyle Allen doesn't necessarily have the field vision and the trigger to take advantage of it. One of these years, or maybe one of these weeks, Curtis Samuel's going to have one of those 150 and 2 touchdown kind of games. And Atlanta is a matchup that it certainly brings that into the range of possibilities. The other thing we're watching out of last week is that in the snow, Greg Olsen became the struggle target, the foxhole target for Kyle Allen. So if you're looking for a tight end this week, again, you like the matchup. We saw what Jared Cook did against Atlanta last week. So you like Olsen in this one. But again, the background here, Carolina needs this game if they want to stay in the playoff picture. Atlanta is enjoying, let's all watch Ryan Fitzpatrick in Miami as our model here. Even if you have nothing to play for in the playoff picture, it can still be a lot of fun to go out and maybe, win a game on the road.
Yeah, it's some fun to spoil things. Like, I'll spoil the Matrix here. Jonas in our chat room's like, I like the Matrix talking the last on the couch. I did 2 Bloom, except one thing.
Yeah,
one thing only. Because Davis was like, and then eventually one day we'll be plugged in like the Matrix. And I was like, how do you know we're not right now?
We already are. We talked about that after. Sometimes the best conversations are right before we go on or right after. So Davis and I talked about it after that's actually what's happening.
Most of the time, the conversations before the show we can't air, so
that's true.
Or that's after, true. Although
the names are changed to protect the innocent.
Right, we're thinking about it. Houston and Baltimore. I'm thinking about this game. Let me tell you, fellas and ladies. I mean, my God, this is going to be awesome because 2 of our favorite quarterbacks in the league, in Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. Let's get it on. Of course, we're looking at the Houston side first, and you're looking at Deshaun Watson. You're looking at Carlos Hyde, maybe Duke Johnson Jr.'s a what the heck flex option for you. You're also wondering what's going to go on at the wide receiver position outside of DeAndre Hopkins, because we're always wondering what's up with Will Fuller's hamstring. So does that make Kenny Stills more of an option, or is he just a what the heck flex this week? Either way, Bloom, fantasy football aside, this is going to be one of my favorite games on Sunday to watch, to digest, and to enjoy.
Yeah, Cecil, this is a topic that's come up a lot this year, that we've seen a changing of the guard, plate tectonics in motion, and the new guard is here at quarterback. And there's something important that they all have in common. Deshaun Watson, of course, Patrick Mahomes, you've got Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, even Kyler Murray to an extent. And what's great about this game is we can go back and remember some of the titanic battles between the quarterbacks of the 80s and 90s when they were at their peak, and these guys probably aren't even at their peak yet. That's what's exciting, right?
Right.
I mean, Deshaun Watson, year 3, Lamar Jackson, year 2, what is to come? Hopefully the first of many, maybe even in the playoffs, battles between these two. Get your popcorn out for this one. Houston needs this game. I mean, every team in the AFC South needs every game, right? The AFC South East reminds me, and I know it's baseball, they have those mascot battles, like the races. I think they do like sausages in Milwaukee and stuff like that, where, over the course of the race, each one will get a chance to have the lead. And then eventually, like, someone wins. The bratwurst wins, Houston, I don't know what sausage it would be, but I know that they need this game. Indy and Jacksonville playing each other. Tennessee's off this week. Tennessee, of course, is feeling good. What's going to be interesting to watch here is Watson against these Baltimore cornerbacks, because now all of a sudden this is the best group of cornerbacks in the league. When 6-7 weeks ago, the Ravens pass defense was one we wanted to target with our fantasy matchups. So you're going to get a lot of DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller limited? Will he be back? He's still just a what the heck flex. Kenny Stills is just a what the heck flex. I'm more inclined to go with Stills if Fuller's in. I'm more inclined to go with Fuller if Fuller's in, even though Fuller could pull up lane. We've seen that a couple of times already this year. You're going to see some Carlos Hyde to just regulate the offense, but I think this isn't a what the heck flex kind of game for him. This is a game I think that could feature Duke Johnson. Doesn't it just make sense against a team with strong corners 1-4 that you let them clear out, send Fuller deep, send Stills deep? DeAndre Hopkins is going to probably cancel out Jimmy Smith here, and pick and peck and poke with Duke Johnson and maybe Darren Fells and Jordan Akins and Kiki Cutie if you ever get out of the doghouse. This would be a great Kiki Cutie game, but whatever. So we'll see. And so it's going to be interesting on multiple levels here. One is, what does Bill O'Brien do and what kind of game plan that they devise to attack a Baltimore defense that is now a dangerous defense? And I think if you play fantasy with team defenses, you know the Baltimore defense is a dangerous defense after what they've been doing the last few weeks since they got Marcus Peters, basically. A pick six off of Russell Wilson. How many times in the history of the show, Cecil, we talk about a pick six off of Russell Wilson? It does not happen. So no. Deshaun Watson should be careful because Deshaun Watson is a bold passer. Will Deshaun Watson make the adjustments necessary when he sees this defense coming at him, the secondary blanketing his favorite options?
Let's talk Baltimore side then. Favorite options of fantasy GMs out there certainly is Lamar Jackson and everything that he can do. And even not with the greatest receiving weapons. Now he does have Mandrew to throw to, right? Willie Snead and the likes. But Mark Ingram, maybe a dash of Gus Edwards Bloom as a what that flex as a touchdown vulture. But it should be a big Ingram game, should be a big Lamar Jackson game. And, I always got love for Mandrew. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, really, we talk about this matchup. See, we can look at one thing and one thing only. Well, when the Ravens aren't a fun team to break down for fantasy because their offense is pretty straightforward as far as how the target's going to be distributed, etc. But just know this: Vernon Hargreaves got released by Tampa. Yeah, they gave up on the first round pick, and he is going to cost about $4 million, maybe even a little more for the rest of the season. And Tampa looked at this corner and said, "We have no use for him." Houston claimed him. Okay. They didn't have to give up a third-round pick like they did for Gary and Conley, but they claimed him. That shows you where the Houston secondary is right now. And they were the only team to claim him. Other teams maybe would have – Miami's like, well, we'll give him a chance if he's league minimum, not on a first-round pick, fifth-year option salary. So that tells me Hollywood Brown. This could be easily a game where Hollywood Brown, if he stays healthy, again, following sadly in that Deshaun Jackson path in more ways than one, this is a massive game for him. And of course, for Mark Andrews, you nibble around the edges, maybe with someone like Nick Boyle, if you need a tight end. And then of course, you're still going to play Mark Ingram because he's going to be the first one to get the running back opportunities for touchdowns, but it's all Lamar. And really the bigger question here is, does anybody have an answer for Lamar? No JJ Watt here. There's definitely some vulnerable parts of this Texans defense. It's really it sets up as a game where Lamar is going to get his. But a la Russell Wilson, can Deshaun Watson pull a rabbit out of a hat? Can Deshaun Watson exert himself over this game? Because there's nobody slowing down Lamar Jackson right now.
Scott O asks in the chat room, do you still start Baltimore defense versus Houston?
I think you do. I mean, I want to know what the other options are, but I think you do partially because you prefer to only spend one roster spot. By the way, for those that are interested, I do the rented defense column every week. Been doing it for 6, 7, 8, 9 years now, or we're looking at churning through the waiver wire for your defense, right? But here's the thing. You play, first of all, because Deshaun Watson, I think we can agree that Deshaun Watson's one of those quarterbacks that lives right on the edge. Deshaun Watson's not going to play it safe, right? So there can be some big plays there for the Baltimore defense, the ball hawking secondary, because Deshaun Watson's not just going to sit back and be like, well, if I have to just check it down all day and do quarterback scrambles, he's going to try to make things happen. But here's the thing. If you hold on to the Baltimore defense, which is hot right now, you're going to get the Rams and their offensive line that's falling apart. San Francisco, okay. And then Buffalo, the Jets, and Cleveland in the fantasy playoffs. Yeah, play Baltimore so you can hold them.
Magnifique. Our next game's not that great, but Arizona and San Francisco. Yeah. San Francisco is going to be ticked off. Arizona is going to be outmatched. But let's talk about the Cardinals side first. And, a lot of fantasy GMs are like, do I just straight up drop David Johnson? Do I just straight up move on from that? We're watching the emergence of Christian Kirk in that offense. This is against the 49ers, and as I mentioned, Bloom, a pissed-off 49ers team because they lost to Seattle. Do they take it out on Arizona? And thus, how much can you trust your Arizona assets in Week 11?
Rematch of a game we just saw 2.5 weeks ago on a Thursday night. So that's fun. It makes the forecasting of this game, the projecting in this game, a little more interesting because we have you talk about recency bias. This is about as close as two teams can play on the calendar, 2 games against each other, I think we've seen a couple of times teams playing week 17 and then play in the playoffs. I'm not sure because of the divisional matchups, etc. Kyler Murray, we had 10-foot pole away from our lineups the first time these teams played, and he had a good game. Now, some of that was the Andy Isabella 88-yard catch and run touchdown. Some of that was just Kyler Murray every week looks a little bit better, a little bit wiser, a little more ready for his job. And the San Francisco team is coming in after a Monday night overtime game. That's something important to remember here. So you're not against Kyler Murray as a streaming quarterback here. Now, San Francisco missed a lot of tackles in that game, very uncharacteristic. So we'll see if they can tighten that up. But again, they're coming in tired. David Johnson wasn't on the injury report. Huh? I'm still not going to play him, but that makes it a little more frustrating if you want to play Kenyon Drake, who looked fantastic. Now, maybe that was against San Francisco. Maybe that was just the exhilaration of getting free from Miami. Maybe that was just San Francisco not being ready for him. But if you're going to play a running back, you're going to play Drake. We're going to watch the outlook here. Hopefully you're seeing that going into the bye next week, David Johnson can come out in week 13 after the bye. Looks something like the David Johnson we expected. The picture for wide receivers here, I mean, Christian Kirk got after his massive game last week. First time out, he didn't do anything. Larry Fitzgerald, okay, he did more against Tampa last week, but you're probably not going with him. Andy Isabella, the snaps and targets aren't to a level yet where he's a safe play. He can make a big play. The reality is we know that Kyler Murray is going to find a way to make some plays, but to who? Which one of these three? Or maybe Keyshawn Johnson, or maybe Pharaoh Cooper, or maybe Charles Clay or Max Williams. I don't know. So it's difficult to take any one of these pieces, but you give all these pieces to Kyler Murray. He's going to try to make things happen. And see, in the background here, as we watch this game, I think we can say it's been a successful year one for Cliff and Kyler. And they've got this franchise going in the right direction, whatever happens in this game. And they were competitive against San Francisco in Arizona. I think they can be more competitive. I think the spread on this one is like 11, Cease. Give me the points, baby.
Here we go. Gambling's legal in Colorado now. I don't know. Down in New Orleans, yeah? Yeah, did you guys get sports betting? No?
Here's what they say in New Orleans, Cecil. It's legal if you don't get caught.
We'll leave that one alone for now. Let's talk about the San Francisco side of things. No Matt Breida in this game. Probably no Matt Breida for a couple of weeks. Okay, Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert as a what the heck flex. Jeffrey Wilson, same, like deeper what the heck flex because they're going to use all three. And it looks like we're, full disclosure, recording Thursday morning. Looks like Emmanuel Sanders is going to be okay. So, maybe a little less for Debo, maybe enough for Debo. People just want their Kittle back. So which 49ers are you plugging and playing this week?
That's what looms over this whole matchup is Kittle and Sanders, right? I'm expecting both to be game time decisions. I would say, and we'll talk to Dr. Gene about this when we're not groaning about the Steelers tonight. I would expect them both to be game time decisions. Kittle more on the doubtful side, maybe Sanders more on the probable side. And I think that because of how this matchup went last time, if Sanders is on the field, you got to play him. And if Sanders doesn't go, then you're more inclined to play a Debo Samuel. And this also feeds into whether you play Jimmy Garoppolo. If Garoppolo has Kittle and Sanders, slam dunk. If he has even just Sanders, he's probably a preferred streamer, DFS quarterback to kind of play because of the Arizona matchup. If he doesn't have either of them, then he may struggle a little bit. Certainly, that would bring Debo Samuel and even Kendrick Bourne into play, not Dante Pettis. And see, there's a story to be told in the background about what happened with Dante Pettis that we're never going to probably hear.
I'll tell you off air.
Well, I'll get to hear it, but you won't out there.
Sorry.
That's okay. Cecil will do his Lassie barks for you sometimes. If you listen and pay close attention, he'll tell you what he can't tell you.
Speaking of paying attention, you should pay attention in team meetings.
Oh.
Lassie bark.
Oh. Probably Cutie's problem too. Coaches are very particular about these things. Tevin Coleman looks like a good play here. Obviously, you saw what he did against Arizona. You've seen what he did, not against Arizona, but you've seen that he did in his peak games this year. And then without Breida, that's Raheem Mostert. But then you also probably have Jeff Wilson getting mixed in here. So there's not a clear second option, although Mostert's better than people think. And then if Kittle is out, Ross Dwelley is the latest to test the theory. Can you play any tight end? If O.J. Howard worked, Tyler Eifert didn't. Can you play any tight end against Arizona? Ross Dwelley, potentially. Next man up, San Francisco, again, what I'll be watching here mostly is hard-fought divisional battle on Monday night, went to overtime. And again, that divisional team, this is that category of game that likes to play spoiler. You know that Arizona has that effort. Can they topple them in Santa Clara?
Cincinnati and Oakland, our next game up. And Bloom, last night on my local fantasy show on 104.3 The Fan, I kept getting Joe Mixon questions. and I kept putting Mixon on the bench. So in the back of my mind, anytime I get these, I'm like, oh God, he's going to blow up. He's going to blow up. Like it's the universe that is telling you, like, because I go through everything and like, nah, Mixon's on your bench. And I must have done this like 4 or 5 times. I am so afraid of Mixon blowing up this week because really Cincinnati, it's like knocked up. It's out on the dance floor doing the dice roll. It's really all you got. You got one move. No AJ Green.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're ever going to see him this year. Like, whatever. It's Ryan Finley, so adjust Tyler Boyd and Auden Tate and Tyler Eifert and all this other stuff accordingly. But I'm pretty nervous about putting Mixon on a lot of people's benches yesterday.
It's funny that you say that, Cecil, because we have to come up with a name for it. Because I have the same thing. Like, this is a good moment, and I'll try not to belabor this because we don't want to take this show for too long. But y'all help us, right? So when I see fantasy analysts there get annoyed about answering questions and things like that, whenever we get all these questions, we get to know what's on your mind. Mm-hmm. We get to know what the consensus valuation of players are, because sometimes you'll get a surprise, right? You'll be like, this is a question for you. Oh, people must be unnecessarily down or up on this player if they're bringing them into this player's echelon. Right. And then exactly like you said, oftentimes, Cease, when I get a question over and over again about a player and I find myself putting him on that team's bench, it really makes me put on the jeweler's eye and say, like, am I really sure about this?
And that makes us better, by the way. Yes. And I will belabor this because I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't check Twitter, but I'll see fantasy analysts that are like, I'm sorry, I told you, blah, blah, blah. And like they make this big deal because they got some wrong call and they're getting some heat on Twitter. It's like, dude, don't be an ass. Like, come on. Like you're not going to get every call right. This. Exactly.
No one put a gun to your head and said you have to give people.
And they act like it's an inconvenience to talk to the public, and because I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I'm sorry, I'm not perfect. I'm like, oh my God,
my rankings. Yeah,
are there some of the most insecure people out there doing fantasy analysis? And I'm like, dude, get your head right. Right? Yeah. Get your community, talk to your people, and they're gonna know. They might give you a little grief, a little crap. Right? Because it's football and this is what guys do, right?
Yeah.
Please, Bloom. We need to drink, do a show on that, and maybe drop some names because it's pretty pathetic.
Yeah, I know. But Diego Lopez has bench and Freuda, by the way. I like that, Diego. So Mixon getting 30 carries in a game they lost 49-13. I mean, I think Mixon, and he still looks good. He's a guy, and this is kind of like one of those games where you have one team playing spoiler, one team trying to march to the playoffs, but there's not a really Paul Gunther revenge coaching game. I don't know. There's not really a connection here to talk about. But I will say that, as you said, with no Green, Ryan Finley made enough throws because of this matchup against Oakland to at least give Tyler Boyd a look as a wide receiver 3 flex PPR play. Auden Tate might be a desperation play. Stanley Morgan Jr. Alex Erickson's banged up. Stanley Morgan Jr. Of course, Stanley Morgan. I love those old Patriots uniforms. They need to bring those back sometimes, man. Stanley Morgan Jr., a Matt Waldman favorite. So, anytime we get a Matt Waldman favorite with a chance to get extended playing time, it's November, December. We'll pay a little attention to that.
Always paying attention to that, and always paying attention to those Oakland Raiders who are surging. They're feeling it. They're at home. They're not going to be on prime time, but John Gruden in that stadium, they've got the crowd rocking. They're ready to go. Josh Jacobs ready to go. Pretty much this is Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Tyrell Williams. Watch his injury status, but like a lot of stuff could work for Oakland because it's Cincinnati. And again, on the flip side of the Cincinnati thing, like, okay, you're going to get boat raced in this one. What does that mean for your offense? Are you still going to be trying to plug Mixon up the middle when you're down by 20? Because the Raiders could get up on them very, very easily.
Yeah, the offense is looking good for the Raiders. The defense, not so much. So that could affect the game script here. They did keep running Joe Mixon when the game was out of hand last week, so who knows? You like Derek Carr as a streamer here because of the Cincinnati matchup, because he has a lot of different targets. None of them are automatic sure things, but you're more inclined to play Tyrell Williams with a chance for some big plays downfield. You're more inclined to play Darren Waller. I see some people backing off of Darren Waller. He still has a demonstrated ceiling as a tight end that is difficult to find right now. And, guys, Evan Ingram's hurt, Austin Hooper's hurt, even Hunter Renfrow as a what the heck flex. But this is a Josh Jacobs game. you get cue up Chris Berman. This is going to be Josh Jacobs giving John Gruden as much as he can in terms of just running over this Cincinnati team that was spun in circles. Baltimore was just toying with them last week. Other thing I'm going to watch here real briefly is Jalen Richard. He still looks good. He looks like a good playmaking, receiving running back. They might not need him in this game, but as the march to the playoffs, and as an aside, I don't want to make these kind of proclamations, but I do anyway. I hope if you're a football fan, you're rooting for the Raiders to make the playoffs. You're rooting for the city of Oakland. You're rooting for these fans because this is the last go round. You could feel it in that win on Thursday night, Cease, right? I mean, there's a savoring, there's an energy when a city really embraces and loves a team. And these people in the stadium love the Raiders, that it transcends like wins and losses or Super Bowls or whatever, bragging rights. It's really just a connection, and the connection in that stadium, and Gruden's feeding it and feeding off of it, which is beautiful to watch. So each one of these home games that tick off before they go to Las Vegas, it's a special time. It's like a dream that everyone's about to wake up from. So this dream, I think, will probably be a happy dream, not a nightmare for Oakland.
Let's move on and talk about New England at Philadelphia. These afternoon games, this one's the best one of the ones. New England, Philadelphia, New England side first. And, well, against Philadelphia, are you really going to trust Sony Michel? You trust James White a little bit more, certainly, and Julian Edelman always. And you're waiting. When's the deadline for Rob Gronkowski to say he's retired or not? It's coming up pretty soon. So let's talk some Patriots as they travel to Philadelphia.
Yeah, and this is like a Chase Stewart question, our esteemed colleague. I feel like we've had more of the great Super Bowl rematches this year than any other year that we've been doing previews. Like somehow the divisional calculus ended up so that when we think of the great games, because we had New England and the Giants, maybe these games didn't live up to that. We had New England and Buffalo, Pittsburgh and Arizona yet to come this year, by the way, and New England, Philadelphia. I mean, that's as good as any Super Bowl right there with that Pittsburgh-Arizona game. So that's fun to think about looming over this. And unlike the Pittsburgh-Arizona game, a lot of the key players in that game are still part of these teams, especially the head coaches. So on the New England side, they get 2 weeks to pick on the Philadelphia secondary. It does seem like we have shifted, and Davis Maddox to something to this extent. We've shifted to the portion of the schedule that's the James White schedule, not the Sony Michel schedule. Not that Sony Michel was making much of an argument for it to remain his offense. So James White is a running back too, maybe even in non-PPR leagues because of his involvement in the red zone. Yes, you're going to play Julian Edelman. Then I guess in your mind's eye, you think, is it more of a Mohamed Sanu game? How does Philadelphia's pass rush get home? I think Isaiah Wynn is going to be back for this one. I don't know how much of a difference that is. Remember, this is a team that's been putting Marshall Newhouse, and Marshall Newhouse gave us one of the most memorable plays in NFL history when he helicoptered, and the way he narrated that is something, if you've never checked that out, look it up. But when Marshall Newhouse is out there playing tackle for your team, you're not in a good spot. Okay, just like he wasn't in a good spot when he was helicoptering through the air like he thought he was Bo Jackson. So you would think that pass rush is going to get home enough on the edge, especially that it's going to be more of a Sanu day than a Dorsett day. Dorsett is more of a what the heck flex. Sanu, I think, has a high PPR floor here. Isn't N'Keal Harry going to be the equalizer, though? They're making him available to the media. Dr. Gene has taught us that that's usually a good sign a player is going to play. He can do those post-up plays. He can also do some plays where you get him the ball in space, and for a big guy, he's nifty and powerful and swift in the open field. Is he the equalizer in this one? Is that what Belichick has up his sleeve? See, there aren't too many times that Belichick is revisiting a loss, See, by the way, in part of Uptown here, they have the streets in order of there's Napoleon Street, and then there's all the places Napoleon won. They don't do Napoleon's losses. So in Boston, if they did Belichick's losses, there'd be a Philadelphia street. Is he going to change the tune on that one?
Philadelphia side, they'd like to change their tune and get some wide receivers that are healthy, because are they banged up at that position? Yeah. So much so that they went out and grabbed Jordan Matthews. Okay, nobody's starting him, but how can you trust Jordan Howard when he's banged up? How can you trust Alshon Jeffrey when he's banged up? Shoulder for Howard, ankle for Jeffrey, who's considered day-to-day.
Right.
Miles Sanders, flex-worthy. I don't want to say what that flex. Let's just call him a regular flex this week. And Well, the stories about Carson Wentz, Bloom.
Uh-huh.
I don't. We might save those for a different show, but like Carson, you need to be better to your teammates. Maybe that aren't as involved with your interests as others. How's this work out for Philadelphia in this one? They'd love to get it, especially at home.
In a week like this, you put all those personal differences aside because it's time to blow up the Death Star. Lots of layers to this one. You and I will probably be recording during part of it, the Week 11 recap. But this is a game you're going to want to dissect. You almost want to preemptively dissect it before it happens because there's lots of layers here. First of all, I encourage everybody. One of the best things you could read about football is the Pepper Johnson interview with Deadspin. Rest in peace, Deadspin, man. That's a whole other story. You allude at this stuff when you talk about our corporate overlords and things like that. Anyway,
yeah, that's a big show.
That's a big show. That's a show that's just going to turn into another podcast series. So, but Pepper Johnson, very frank and candid. One of the things he said is that Belichick does to teams what he doesn't like to be done to him. Just keep that in the back of your mind. But also, he hates defending two skilled running backs. And it just fits with them having no wide receivers. The picture in Philadelphia practice this week was, I think, Mike Groh and Doug Peterson actually coaching wide receivers on technique and things that don't have. This is not supposed to happen during the season. During the season, you're working on installing the game plan for the upcoming week. You're not working on actually coaching players up. That's bad. That's really bad. JJ Arthega, Whiteside, you're not really ready yet. Mac Hollins probably should have been cut from this team. He's not contributing much. Alshon Jeffrey, I don't know if we're going to see him. Nelson Aguilar is doing his Ted Ginn impression where he can get open, but is he going to catch the ball, undermining confidence? So you want Sanders and Howard both on the field at the same time, and especially you want Sanders out in routes against New England linebackers downfield. Likewise, you're going to have a lot of Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz on the field at the same time. And you're going to play Howard, by the way, because actually New England's run defense was eroding a little bit coming into their bye. And Sanders is a what the heck flex because of his dangerous ability as a receiver downfield. You're going to play Zach Ertz, but doesn't it just make sense? You're Belichick. I'm going to take away your comfort zone. That's Ertz. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you're just going to take Ertz away, and you're going to say Carson Wentz. You have to do it to somebody somebody else than that Zach Ertz. And I don't expect Alshon Jeffrey to play. And even if he does, he's going to get Stephon Gilmore. Forget it. Dallas Goedert. It's Dallas Goedert. I mean, this is a game. Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders. These are the two players. If we look back season, we're recapping or talking about how Philadelphia beat New England. It's because of Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders in the passing game and winning their one-on-one matchups and then adding with their athleticism, their youthfulness, and Carson Wentz. Because here's the thing. Belichick's never faced Carson Wentz. And maybe Carson Wentz isn't Lamar Jackson, but he is a quarterback that prefers, a la early career Ben Roethlisberger, to engage the defense outside of the structure of a play, outside of the structure of linear football. Carson Wentz is one of those quarterbacks, 3rd and 13, got him right where we want him. He loves taking those chances. Now, this New England defense could turn it into a turnover fest. This New England defense could do what Dallas did to him earlier this year and just make him look feeble and show that his aggressiveness is going to leave blind spots for the defense to attack him and turn this into a blowout. But if Carson Wentz is crafty, Carson Wentz is able to make some plays outside of the structure because, again, the structure that hinges off of Zach Ertz is going to be shaky. This is going to be a really fun game, Cease. Every play on both sides of the ball is going to really show the engagement between these coaches and how these players can execute what the coaches do, but also transcend and go beyond what the coaches have given them as their marching orders.
Sunday night football is Chicago at the LA Rams. And well, we know the Rams defense isn't what they want it to be. So with Chicago, you might be feeling a little bit better. Sure, you got Mitchell Trubisky out there running point guard for it. So that's not the greatest thing, but where's your confidence level for David Montgomery, Tariq the Freak Cohen, Allen Robinson, and the like here in week 11?
Could they have flexed this game? Don't they have? Are we in the part of the schedule now where they can flex games out?
I think so, right? Or is it after Thanksgiving?
I don't know, because I want to say that a game got flexed last week.
We should have flipped this in the Pats game, right? Honestly, especially for our recording schedule, because I'm like, oh, damn it.
Or the Baltimore-Houston game. Can they flex one of the ball? I mean, that game would have been the primetime game. Oh, well, this is what we get. This is what we get, so this is what we'll talk about. Mitchell Trubisky has momentum. For the first time this year, we can say Mitchell Trubisky has momentum coming into a game. Through 3 touchdowns, look pretty good against Detroit. But yes, Ben win. Rams defense all day. Because you got Aaron Donald, you got Clay Matthews, you got Dante Fowler. put Mitchell Trubisky back in the garage. In some ways, it's almost a relief for Bears fans if Mitchell Trubisky gets embarrassed on national TV on Sunday night, because it's not going to happen with Trubisky, I don't think. And do you believe in miracles? Maybe. Even David Montgomery. I mean, so they're going to go to David Montgomery, so you can have 15 carries for 51 yards. Not involved in the passing game. Tariq Cohen will be involved in the passing game. It's a desperation kind of PPR play there. Allen Robinson against Jalen Ramsey. Now, on one hand, Mitchell Trubisky got going last week when he just started throwing the ball around Allen Robinson. That can be dangerous when Jalen Ramsey is around the player you're throwing to. But Jalen Ramsey has not been shut down Jalen Ramsey since he's joined the Rams. So Allen Robinson, he's not going to have a massive game. He could easily give you one of those 6 for 60, 7 for 70, the alliteration game sees, because Ramsey's slipping a little bit. And then, of course, that gives Anthony Miller and Taylor Gabriel a little better matchups, desperation plays. These are the kinds of players that are going to have to make plays happen. They're not getting anything from the tight end for them to hang in. But I think the larger story here is, does Mitchell Trubisky do enough to help them hang in this game and they're competitive? And then they say, well, maybe he'll still get over the hump. Or do the Rams, Wade Phillips, he's cruel. I mean, Wade Phillips is going to sweep the leg. There's going to be a lot of chances to do that in this one.
Yeah, Wade Phillips going to want to do that all day. On the flip side of that, how do they keep up? How do they go through the air with Cooper Kupp, with Robert Woods in this one? Gerald Everett GMs are like, please just be healthy. Thursday morning, watch the injury report. And then Todd Gurley's like a flex play, Bloom.
Yeah.
He's like a running back 2, maybe, but you probably have better options, a lot better options than Todd Gurley this week, which makes me sad.
Yeah. And one of the things we saw last week in those thrilling Sunday, Monday night games, it was bad for the Rams, right? When Seattle beat San Francisco, that pushed Seattle up a notch. When Minnesota beat Dallas, that pushed Minnesota up a notch in the wild card standings, so that the Rams and Carolina have a bigger chasm to get over to get into the playoffs, because Dallas losing, there's still a spot between Dallas and Philadelphia. So, that doesn't help the Rams. They cannot afford to lose this game. Bottom line, they cannot afford to lose this game if they want to stay in the playoff picture. But Jared Goff is going to face a tough defense, Khalil Mack, etc., and even without Akeem Hicks. And yes, Akeem Hicks being out and the Bears' run defense is vulnerable. Todd Gurley, I don't even know if he's a flex. He's a what the heck flex. A little bit of Malcolm Brown, a little bit of Darrell Henderson sprinkled in. Cooper Kupp, you're going to play him, but here's one of the things to watch. If the Steelers can take away Cooper Kupp, then other defenses can too. And you saw how uncomfortable it made Jared Goff on third down. It was, a miniature version of what happened in the Super Bowl, where Jared Goff couldn't really evolve during the game whenever his favorite target was taken away. I would hope that Chicago does everything they can to simulate that. Still play Cooper Kupp, but maybe that makes you a little more inclined to play Robert Woods and Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett's got some momentum going into this one. I think he's a target that that Jared Goff should focus on anyway, Cooper Kupp or no Cooper Kupp. If Goff has time, Josh Reynolds has a chance as a what the heck flex. He is the downfield target in this offense now if he has time. Remember, the Rams offensive line is in shambles. They had 2 new starters this year. They're both already hurt. The right tackle is hurt. Andrew Whitworth is eroding. Austin Corbett, who the Browns, if the Browns say this guy's not good enough to be on our offensive line roster, not starting offensive line, they traded him for like a 5th or 6th round pick after they took him in the 2nd. He's starting for the Rams. So is Goff going to have time? This could be, and I think when the Rams and Bears played last year, it was an ugly game. It was a primetime game.
Well, the Patriots stole Vic Fangio's game plan for the Super Bowl because the Bears pretty much shut down the Rams when they were the high flying, nobody can stop them Rams.
Yeah, this is a game much like the Seattle, San Francisco, and Pittsburgh Rams games last week. Defensive touchdowns. These are the kinds of things that are going to decide this game, not offensive success.
Offensive success for Kansas City and Los Angeles and Monday Night Football. Put her on mute. but watch Pat Mahomes do his thing, and Damian Williams, I guess, as LaShawn McCoy will be a healthy scratch. Who the hell knows in that situation? But confidence level with those running backs, let's discuss that. Of course, you're starting Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and we're seeing if McCole Hardman can get break away for a big touchdown. And what's up with Sammy Watkins? Like, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of options. Bloom, there's going to be a lot of incomplete scores from Sunday, because fantasy gyms will be waiting for all their Chiefs assets on Monday.
Mexico City gets a good game. I mean, at least on paper, a good game because it has Patrick Mahomes, right? Why didn't we send Patrick Mahomes to London if we're trying to set up our franchise there? Well, maybe the Chargers are the franchise, but they're saying no, it's not us. In football terms, Kansas City, absolutely a team that can make a run to a Super Bowl, but a team that has work to do if they're even going to make the playoffs. Raiders say, hey, we're still here. We can take this division. Look at the Raiders' schedule. So the Chiefs can't afford to give any games away at this point after losing to Tennessee. From a fantasy standpoint, Mahomes looks fantastic. A little rusty at the beginning of the game, but then... And Tyreek Hill looks better than ever. Tyreek Hill might be the number one receiver in fantasy football at this point. Of course, Travis Kelce can still do his thing. Assume Damian Williams is going to get most of the work again. During the bye, we may come back. Maybe during this game, we'll come back to that. But when I'm setting my lineup, I'm assuming another 15, 20 touches, red zone touches, a lot of targets for Damian Williams in this one. Then you get down to Sammy Watkins. And I'm afraid that even after what we saw in week 1, we were looking at Sammy Watkins as a low ceiling player, a 5 for 50 alliteration games again type of player. So he's a fine wide receiver 3 flex. Anytime you can get a slice of Patrick Mahomes in your lineup, you might do that. Even DeMarcus Robinson is a what the heck flex. McCole Hardman as a what the heck flex. Low floor, but high ceiling. He can turn 2 receptions into 130 and 2 touchdowns. So he's probably out of the 3. Hardman has the highest ceiling. Watkins has the highest floor. Don't forget about DeMarcus Robinson. The other thing I watch here is that Chargers pass rush. Remember, they lost to the Raiders, but the pass rush with Bosa and Ingram, could it be an equalizer? Could it be something that frustrates Patrick Mahomes? We saw the Broncos frustrate him last year. The Chargers, not so much. They're going to get another chance here, basically to keep their season alive.
Yeah, and Chargers in this one against that Chiefs defense, the reason why Kansas City won't be able to do what we want them to do and blow up the Death Star that is the New England Patriots is because of that defense. So Phillip Rivers going to want to take it to his division rival. How's your trust level for Keenan Allen and Big Mike Williams and Hunter Henry, right? These pass catching options like Austin Eckler is a running back 1. They have 2 running back 1s with Melvin Gordon, basically, if you're in a PPR league. And of course, I mentioned Hunter Henry. So yeah, Chargers, start him. You got him, start him. So again, fantasy gyms are going to be waiting.
Yeah, this is a game. This is one of those games at the end of the week season. Of course, fantasy playoff implications for everybody. It could swing back and forth in the third and fourth quarter, where and this was a game that the Chargers had an epic comeback last year. It was the Mike Williams game in the primetime version of this game. So, what do you do if you're the Chargers, though? And Anthony Lynn's the coach, Cecil. So I think that with Ken Wisenhunt out of the picture, we can reliably look at it more from an Anthony Lynn perspective here. And look at what Tennessee did last week when they beat Kansas City. Because you come out and, Mahomes goes down the field, even though it looks like they picked him off right away, overturned. And then Tannehill fumbles. The defense just hangs on and only gives up a field goal. So Chargers defense, just hang on. And then your offense can really exploit what's wrong when there's a lot of things wrong with this Chiefs defense. But if you're Anthony Lynn, because we watch Phillip Rivers, and it's always sad and hard to watch this part of a great player's career. But we watched Phillip Rivers making throws last week against the Raiders that he thought was going to work, or at least he had some expectation that something.
They used to work.
And then as soon as you see the trajectory of the ball, as a fan, you're watching the game, you're like, that's not going to work. So don't you scale Rivers back a little bit? I mean, Melvin Gordon is rested compared to his counterparts because he came into the season like a month into the season, right? And he looked rested. Melvin Gordon looked as good last week as any game I've seen, as far as his decisiveness, the sharpness of his cuts, the way he was finishing his runs. Isn't this a game where you let Melvin Gordon run the way you let Derrick Henry run last week? Just feed him. And when you're not feeding him, feed Austin Eckler, feed him as a receiver, keep it short, keep it safe, and keep Kansas City's defense on the field because they can't get off the field. That's the recipe to win this one. I love Melvin Gordon this one. Austin Eckler should be in your lineup as a flex anyway. You like him. Hunter Henry is still the target I think that Philip Rivers is throwing the ball best to. So, and of course, you're not playing another tight end over Hunter Henry, and you're still going to play Keenan Allen because of volume. Mike Williams is tougher. If you see this as a shootout, if you see this as a game where Philip Rivers has to open it up and they just try to trade haymakers in a heavyweight fight, then Mike Williams is a good play. But if they're successful in keeping Kansas City's defense on the field and just matriculating the ball down the field with their running backs and safe passing and third down execution, then Mike Williams is the underwhelming option he's been all year. But I think that we can lay out a good story here, Cease, again, where what this becomes about is not just about Patrick Mahomes. Every game Patrick Mahomes is about Patrick Mahomes, but the Kansas City defense. Cease, there was a good tweet. I wish I remember who said it. They said, "What's your favorite rivalry in the NFL?" They said Patrick Mahomes against the Kansas City defense. Whose destiny is stronger in this one? And can the Chargers have a game plan that makes the Kansas City defense very important, the same way that Tennessee did last week?
I give Keenan Allen that Michael Crabtree route tree. Just 3-yard drag routes all day. Little dump off, by the way. And everyone watched QB School. JT O'Sullivan broke down the 2-minute drill by Ryan Tannehill last week against the Chiefs defense. Magnificent work from JT O'Sullivan on the QB School. So everyone check that out as we check out our what the heck flexes here in week 11. You're looking over your lineup. You just need some punch. So in week 11, some of my what the heck flexes, and we've talked about them during the duration of the show, but let's go back over the list, shall we? Tariq the Freak Cohen, Miles Sanders to me, Darius Geis, got a lot of Darius Geis questions. Everyone excited to see him out there. Like, okay, fine. What the heck flex? Jalen Richard, what the heck flex? That type of level. Peyton Barber is a what the heck flex this week. Raheem Mostert in that 49ers backfield. Jeffrey Wilson's a deeper what the heck flex, but both of them are basically to the wide receiver position when we talk what the heck flexes. Kenny Stills, Hunter Renfrow, both what the heck flexes for me. Russell Gage, as we're looking for where do those Austin Hooper targets go? What'd you call them? Foxhole targets, Bloom?
Yeah.
Is that right? I love that, by the way. We're definitely going to use that. Foxhole targets, your security blanket. That could be Russell Gage. So he's a what the heck flex this week as well. Always got love from a man, P. Rich from CU against the Jets this week. He's a what the heck flex for me. So Bloom, when you look over your lineup, and I love Traquan Smith. He's my Kiki Cutie, Bloom.
Yeah, I know.
Except I talk about him less. Oh, I love it. And I love you, Bloom, as I take a shot at your Kiki Cutie love.
That's
but
okay.
Traquan's a what the heck flex for me. So Sigmund Bloom.
Yeah.
In week 11, you look over your lineup, you need that punch. Who are some of your week 11 what the heck flexes?
A lot. There's a lot of what the heck flexes this week. And think of what the heck flex. I'll distinguish if otherwise as players you might take a longer look at this week than you would in a typical week. All right. Running back, Kenyon Drake. And we're watching the David Johnson buzz. The injury report might not be reliable here. Brian Hill, Duke Johnson, Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, and Kalen Ballage. Yes, Kalen Ballage. And watch it be like Patrick Laird or Myles Gaskin instead. But with the way Buffalo's run defense has looked the last 2 weeks, there should be, if you give Kalen Ballage 20 carries, there should be a carry or two, if they can block it well, where that second level of the defense, the linebackers are not protecting their gaps. They're not playing disciplined football. And if Kalen Ballage can get to the second level with a head of steam, he's not going to stop. And we saw him do it once last year. So this is the week to take a chance on Kalen Ballage doing that. Lots of wide receivers. Go back to Terry McLaurin, Tyrell Williams, Mohamed Sanu, Philip Dorsett if you're feeling lucky, Stills or Fuller if you're feeling lucky for that big play, Mike Williams. Again, talked about McCole Hardman, talked about DeMarcus Robinson. So if you're going to go deeper, Hunter Renfrow, Andy Isabella, and I did have Traquan Smith on my list, Cease. And if Emmanuel Sanders, because Traquan Smith had the best play that wasn't a Michael Thomas play in the passing game, and Ted Ginn had 2 drive-killing, terrible drops. So I wonder if you do a little tweaking of that in a good matchup against Tampa Bay. I'm going to bring up Pittsburgh's wide receivers and Detroit's wide receivers, assuming Matthew Stafford isn't playing, as the flip side of what the heck flex. Is these receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster, and on the upside, James Washington and Deontay Johnson are good what the heck flexes, right? So Juju Smith-Schuster, it's like a joke. Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson and James Washington walk into a bar and they say, the Steelers need a new quarterback. No, except for James Washington. He says, I can show you some good places to eat in Stillwater, Oklahoma, Eskimo Joe's, right? So these guys, yes, a lot of questions this week, like, am I really benching Juju? I mean, you have to look at the trends here. even Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones against Dallas's defense. Some of these guys, we got the Marcy Rossman rule, Cease, but you dance with who brung you. But if you can't dance to a song, you got to go someplace where the music's better.
And the first time we didn't even get to the fantasy playoffs. Now you got me thinking about Marcy Rossman, man.
Yeah.
Eaton, Colorado, home of Austin Eckler and Marcy Rossman. Marcy Rossman first. So there you go. We have it done, wrapped up for this week's program. And, well, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Bucket hats and all. And our man Jason, our pot stoner degenerate from up in Greeley, is not even in the chat room today. So, Jason, I'm calling you out, buddy, because you got the bucket hat. And he's Mr. Bucket Hat and Cool Dank. What's the lingo for the stoners?
Only if you want circa 1996 lingo, should you ask me. I can tell some embarrassing stories right now, but I won't.
I love your No Effect shirt.
Yeah, this is another Jeff Wilson shirt. A good 1/4 of my t-shirt collection are Jeff Wilson t-shirts. Do musicians make good lovers? This one is it's fun. And what should be fun, Cease, by the way, for those of you in the chat room or those of you listening and still on Thursday, again, live Steelers reactions. I've pulled him back in. Cecil, we have a little umbilical cord now back from Cecil to the Steelers. And will it be toxic or will it be nourishing goodness against the Browns? And if you didn't see it on Halloween, Matt Waldman won the costume contest as a Steelers fan, the Steelers fan costume. So he's going to be having fun. I think people talk about how they feeling like they're hanging out with us, watching football or talking about football. This should be prime, and there's going to be lots of sorry Joes. I don't expect us to get any monetization from the video tonight, Cease.
Yeah, we just leave it off. That's fine. YouTube, it's fine. Don't take away our channel. It's fine. By the way, I already got a case of beer for this one.
Good.
It's going to be halftime, so I'll probably have a sixer down, and we're going to let it fly, baby.
I can mute you, right? You're going to give me the power that I can mute you if I have to, like the 5-second delay on Saturday Night Live. Cut it.
Right. It's gone too far. So this picture is just a small example of how excited we're going to be on tonight's program. And then we'll have sad Matt Waldman to be writing.
Just Waffle House? Is that at a Waffle House?
That is at an IHOP in Mobile because, we always stay at the La Quinta, right? Mm-hmm. In Mobile. Love La Quinta, all that. The Wi-Fi was down.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, where can we go? We went to IHOP to write, and then their Wi-Fi went out. So we went to the parking lot of the Hooters. Hooters was closed because everything closes in Mobile at 9. So we went to the parking lot of Hooters because they had a Wi-Fi signal. We finished writing, and we sent all of our stuff. We posted all of our stuff from the parking lot of a Hooters because they still had their Wi-Fi on. We could jump on.
That's devotion.
Yeah, that was crazy times in Mobile, Alabama. He's Sigmund. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at The Audible. We certainly appreciate and love you guys and love our community. Again, that's what it's about, man. Community, being there, being together, being there for each other. So much love as always. We are The Audible. We'll see you tonight. Get your cold pops. Stay tuned and stay frosty.